when Rampage came out, I mean, it's crazy to reflect on it, but I'd only been climbing like 8 years or something, or 6 years, but I was like 18. So I started climbing on it when I was 12, which nowadays is like kind of late, right? But
yeah,
I had a very, very rapid ascension in the sport and kind of got thrust into the limelight. And, and then it all kind of came crashing down when I was like 17. Like I had this bad knee operation, and that really like reset my approach on climbing. And I think that's just like a challenging time in one's life when you're 17, 18, 19, you're trying to kind of make sense of yourself. And having that happen really like made me question and reflect on all of those things, and set me on a different path, I would say, because I was, on this like fast track of like, just like ascending to the, top of the heap. And, when things are going that good, that fast, it's hard to question it, right? You just kind of like, you're in the moment. And but then when you kind of have it all taken away from you, it kind of like makes you think about that stuff and try to make sense of it all. And I think it's, I was talking with my buddy Mike Call the other day, just when I was out in Utah, but those are still experiences that like kind of like I'm like unpacking. You're still trying to kind of like assimilate all of those things that affects or impacts or defines who we are even 20 years later, right? So it's pretty interesting.
What happened with your knee? I remember reading about that and never really hearing the whole story. Maybe I missed it, but is that when you... what happened with your knee?
I was snowboarding. I was in Salt Lake, so I think I had come up from... I think we had just finished filming pre-Waco, actually. So that was like beginning of 1998. And yeah, like I said, like I had just come from, the end of 1997, I had like won my first World Cup and had climbed the hardest routes in the US and, gone to Europe and kind of like crushed everything in some sense, some ways, in the comps at least. And anyways, I went snowboarding in Salt Lake after that I think it was in the spring of 98, and I tweaked my knee. Later on that season, I was messing around in Camp 4 on a boulder problem, like in my tennis shoes, and kind of mantled. It was the problem, the Battle of the Bulge, and climbed in my tennis shoes. Like I went to mantle and kind of spun off and landed kind of like spinning, but with a straight leg, and it just, my knee buckled, and it was pretty traumatic. Like at that time, like I had my like first real girlfriend, and like that kind of like, simultaneously kind of like fell apart, and suddenly like climbing was taken away from me, which I had kind of made pretty big sacrifices to follow with like with school and stuff. I did this like alternative program, and so suddenly, yeah, it was kind of like, felt like things kind of came crashing down. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool how you can kind of go through these different phases. And anyways, I was talking with this kid, Ellis, at the comp, and he was, I don't know, he must be like 20 or something like that. And so, I feel like, a similar period of your life, when you're just like, there's such a big development going from being like a kid into being an adult and trying to find your place in the world and trying to figure out who you are. And climbing can kind of overtake that too. Like this, it becomes such a big part of who we are that it can just like define everything about us. And it can kind of, just be a little overbearing in a way, like that, it's no longer a choice, but it's like, this is like who I am, and this is what I have to do. And so for me, like, I look at my career or my life as a climber, and like there's been all of these different like chapters where things have like started, and then they've like at some point come to a close, and where I've consciously kind of stopped and then like consciously like restarted. And it's not like this like continuous thread. It's more like these different segments. And I think that's been interesting because it's always enabled me to like make a conscious decision that like, oh, I want to go climbing because that's what I want to do, rather than just like follow this blind kind of inertia or, expectations that come from ourselves or outside of us. What comes to my mind, for an example, is like with Dura Dura and trying that with Ondra, and so much being kind of like wrapped up in that, like, it was like the competition to, who's going to climb the hardest route in the world, and like for the, title of the world's best climber or whatever, there's so much projected onto that. And I've always tried to like not let that stuff kind of control me. But, you always kind of wonder, you're like, why am I doing these things? And there's a little bit of all the different things mixed up into it. Of course, there's a side of you a side of me that probably gets off on that too. It feels pretty good to have people tell you that. But then it makes you wonder, like, that's not really like the real reason why I want to be a climber or why I want to climb. And so it was actually very liberating, and it was an interesting experience when Adam did the route before me, because suddenly it was like, all right, now it's a different game now. Obviously he did that first, and it was really cool because I found that I was like, I still wanted to do the route just as bad. It was cool because we got all of this like external noise of like, this kind of man-made competition or whatever that people love to kind of like see that stuff, and it's cool, right? But that was kind of off the table, and that was just me going climbing again. And there was a side of me that wondered, like, what's going to happen when it's really easy to understand why you love something when you're the best and everyone tells you you're the best, but like, what's going to happen to that relationship when it's not like that? And so for me, it was really cool to kind of like go through that, and then suddenly realize, like, actually, like, I'm super psyched. I want to do this route. And it was kind of like this validation that like I was kind of doing it for the right reason in a way, which was cool.
If you find videos like this helpful, I put together a free masterclass on how to unlock your full potential in climbing, where I share some of the best nuggets I've learned from interviewing the best climbers in the world. It's for any climber who wants to improve, and it'll help you take your climbing to the next level. Link in the description below if you want to check it out. I followed your whole career, but it's been fun to watch your career post Dura Dura, because it does seem like that was a big shifting point for you. I mean, even though Adam did it first, maybe there's still a little bit of stuff there, like it's still the hardest route in the world. Maybe that still has its allure, but it's really cool to see you still trying Perfecto Mundo. It's like a lot of people have climbed that now, and it's still a really fucking big deal, but it's not the hardest route in the world. But like, oh wow, it's just, Chris is just trying to climb this amazing route that he envisioned all those years ago and still hasn't done it, and he's still out there trying it. And I was going to ask you about that, like if Dura Dura kind of led to like a paradigm shift or like a philosophy shift or something around your climbing. It seems like you've kind of released some of your routes and projects and stuff since then as well.
Well, absolutely. It was like a shift. Like working to climb 9B plus was an important thing for me, because I'd never really approached climbing in like a sport way. Honestly, like I had done these things, but that was kind of like this moment where I was like, all right, let's see if I can actually hang with the best of them and like try to do something, hard if I put my mind to it, right? And then I kind of did that, and it felt like it was like an end of a chapter for me in, living in Catalonia, bolting all of these routes. And I honestly felt like it was time for a change. I helped start Sender One. It felt like I was being drawn to like new challenges in a way. I had kind of moved back to California and then ended up meeting my wife, and my wife is Venezuelan, and also her father is from Barcelona. And so when we met, we were trying to find a kind of a common place for both of us. And Catalonia was kind of that place, because she had spent time there, and so had I. So kind of destiny brought us back, and then we started, of course, we started a family. We started, Sharma climbing with the climbing gyms, and those were like really important things to explore. You need to keep kind of like growing as a person, having these life experiences. And it's interesting because, you know, years later, I'm like super excited on this route Le Blonde, which is literally 10 feet to the right of La Dura Dura. And it's really cool now. But I remember back then it was like, you know, basically I'm repeating the same process over. It's not like I'm really like reinventing myself, you know. It's like it felt kind of like a closed-minded approach to life, you know, like, oh, I did this, now I'm just going to move right over to the right 5 feet and just repeat the same thing just to climb like a little bit harder. It felt kind of like a small-minded approach. And I think that's something, yeah, like all through my life, it's like been kind of like engaging and then stepping back and then like coming back into something, but with like a new perspective and a new appreciation and being in a new headspace. And I remember going, like, being in the midst of like just becoming a dad and going to Oleana and seeing friends with their like humidity gauges, and they're like kind of stressing out about like, oh, there's like 2% humidity too much. And I'm just like, dude, we're at the crag, like I'm touching rock, like it's amazing, you know?
Right.
And so I don't know, we're all in our own, you know, trajectory with that stuff. And so it's not to judge anybody in what they're doing. But yeah, for me, it's been cool to have that climbing be that kind of thread that kind of weaves everything together.